Happy Monday, degenerates. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast proper. This is not a break week. I'm not playing any pranks. We have got some actual UFC fights to talk about this week. And also, it is my absolute favorite time of year. The NHL playoffs are rocking. I got to put my awesome new Kachina jersey here on display, even though my Coyotes are no more, unfortunately. Been kicking ass and taking names with the NHL degenerate action, though, which feels good. Feels good. Coming off a very small loss in PFL this past week. I had a small win. It was in the bag, and then I decided to make a live bet. So, minus a quarter unit. Can't complain, but can't rock the baby blues either. You guys know the rules. How's everybody in the chat doing this evening? We've got my guy Joshua Frick Mushroom in the chat as always. Colby Dream. We've got VGO Dixon Cider Air Dog, the usual. Raul's hanging out. Ted B, Dell, Glenn Bot 5000. How's everybody doing tonight? All right. Thank you all so much for being here. As always, this is the home of fight. Do me a favor and hit the like button. You better hit the like button because I have a very special guest this evening. Somebody who is long overdue for his Die Hard MMA podcast debut. Known the guy on Twitter for a long time, love his work, and he's extremely sharp, far sharper than I. So he's got some stuff for you people, none other than Mr. Pepe Silva. Pepe, how you doing today, man?
Yo, Clint, thanks for finally having me on. It's nice to finally get my cherry popped and getting on the Die Hard MMA podcast. Pumped for this card and to break it down and hopefully find some spots.
Hell yeah, man. It's going to be a good time. Did you go nuts on PFL like the rest of us did with no UFC?
Dude, PFL is like my biggest downfall this year. Like everything that could go wrong in a PFL bet for me has it's just been a money pit for me. And for some reason, I always think the next week I'm going to turn it around, and somehow I just keep getting smoked. So I lost a couple units in PFL. Nothing new, but I'm back and ready for more.
I completely understand. That's been a problem for me in the past as well. I'm starting to kind of round the corner this year, but now I'm getting hit with the bad beats. Like, this last one was my own damn fault. Like I said, I ended up making a live bet and pulled the trigger on a live spot that was juicy plus money and close fight, the Barzola spot. I thought that fight was going to end up being close on the judges' scorecards, and that cost me the win. I had it. The one before that was the anti-Delija, ripped groin situation. Mm-hmm. Like, my whole night came down to that fight. He looked great for the 2 minutes that got started and then has no leg to stand on and is immediately finished. So no, I feel you, man. PFL is tough waters to navigate these days for sure.
That diamond bet you had was super sharp though. Like that was a really nice spot, man. I gotta
thank you.
Yeah, give you your flowers on that one.
I appreciate that. Diamond is a guy that he's one of those dudes that I got to tell you, that's my pitfall right there, is these fighters that flash brilliance and I kind of circle them and I'm like, I'm going to make money on you later. Some of them just never come around. You know what I mean? Like I'll burn money betting on these guys that I think are going to eventually turn the corner. But Diamond is one I've been watching and waiting for. So that one I felt really good about. So thank you. I appreciate that.
That's how I kind of feel about Onama. Like he's one of those fighters where it just kind of feels like there's something kind of special about him, but he's still super green. But yeah, I'm the same way.
Now we'll get into that one. That one's interesting for sure. But what's this, Pepe? What's this about a new tattoo? I'm not seeing anything on your face. So
I haven't gotten the new tattoo. So me and my co-host Evan made a side bet on the Diego Lopez Sodiq fight that the loser of the bet has to get Dream, Believe, and Make It Happen tattooed on them. And so I'm a man of my word, and I'll eventually get it tattooed and let everyone know, but it hasn't been done yet. But my artist is booked right now, but I'm gonna make it happen.
That's good shit. That is some good shit. Okay. All right. I'm on board. I can't wait to see it when it gets done. All right, guys. We are back. We are back in full swing. And to get us started, I did a shot. I played a prank on everybody last week, Pepe. I did a shot, but it doesn't count because I owe my guy in the chat, Ethan Hershey. He got one over on me again. He challenges me to a shot bet damn near every single week. But he had Alex Pereira, and of course I had Jamal Hill. I did a shot last week. It wasn't paying my debt. It was just a shot for fun. So
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and kill what's left of this bottle here, Ethan. Cheers to you on a fantastic pick, my friend. And that's how we'll rip off the show to start for today.
Cheers.
All right.
He seems to have your number, doesn't he, that Ethan guy?
He does. And it's just one damn fight per card, too. So, like,
yeah.
He usually gives me an out. He'll be like this one, or he'll like give me two choices.
Yeah.
But every damn time he gets the one that I'm like, I could sweep a card or go like 6-1. He'll get the one that I got wrong.
I think subconsciously you want to lose a bet. So you're picking fighters that you know are going to lose. So you get to do a shot on the show.
It's not a bad. It's kind of a win-win for me, right? Like if I lose, I get to do a shot. If I win, I get to rub it in his face. It is what it is. So, no, it's good stuff. Ethan's a good guy. So here we go, everybody. All right, that's enough rambling. We'll get into the show for you. We got a lot of fights to talk about today. Kicking off the evening, we've got Maheshate, who apparently has a last name finally, taking on Gabriel Mowgli Benítez. And real fun way to kick off the card, man. This fight should be intense, should be violent, should be a good one to get the juices flowing. And they set the total at 1.5. I'm always biased on these early unders, man. I feel like the UFC every single time wants to kick the night off with like a big finishing banger type of fight. So I'm always biased to look at that under on the first fight of the night. But Maheshate 9-3, he's just 24 years old, man. He's had a couple of UFC fights, 3 to be exact, but still very, very young. I thought he was a little bit older than that, but he got absolutely blasted by Slava Claus in his last fight. You got to wonder where his confidence is at. We've seen this before where young fighters will get thrown to the wolves, risen up the ranks a little too quickly because they've got high expectations for them. And then when they get bludgeoned like that, how do they bounce back? It's a big question mark. I'm always a little shaky in those kinds of spots, but his movement and footwork really looked improved. He's big for the weight class. He hits really hard. He had some decent takedown attempts, but Slava Claus is not the guy because everyone's trying to take that guy down. So like he's made a career out of defending the takedown or getting back up and then throwing his hands. So if you're not an A+ wrestler, you're not the guy who's going to be taking Slava down. So Maheshate was just kind of fucked in that fight, man. He really was. Big size bully, like I mentioned, nice right cross, vicious power, but he's training at Fight Ready. My favorite gym. Great think tank over there, some good minds. I think if they're going to turn this kid around and make him a weapon, that's the gym to be at. He's going to be 4 inches taller than Gabriel Benítez, 23-11. This guy's 35 years old. In his last 7 UFC fights, he's on a 2-5 run. 4 of those 5 losses have been by finish. His wins are over guys like Justin James and Charlie Ontiveros. To be quite frank, man, I said this last time when he fought Jim Miller. I was trying to find a way to like bet against Jim Miller. And then of course I missed the damn Bobby Green spot at UFC 300. But I've been like, the end of the road is coming. Like we all want to believe, we all love Jim, but he's fought a really low level of competition. And I just couldn't make the argument for Benítez because I'm like, this guy, he's got all the pieces, but somehow he's not UFC level. You know what I mean? Like he's just not beating anybody at this game here. We like the hard chopping leg kicks. He tends to get figured out and kind of falls apart deeper in the fight. He jabs and kind of retreats. It really looks like he just doesn't want to get hit these days. I think this is a get right spot, man. I know the -200 seems a little bit gross, but I kind of think Maheshate's the right side here. What about you? What are you doing on this one?
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably going to be a complete stay away. Like it's hard for me to get to Maheshate at, -2XX with how unproven he is. And like, just how little experience he has compared to Benítez. But it's hard to have any confidence in Benítez after that Jim Miller performance. And if you look back on his resume, he doesn't really have any solid wins. I I think everyone he's beaten in the UFC is now out of the UFC. So he's kind of been exposed as like a fairly one-dimensional, mediocre kickboxer. And I think Maheshate will probably just win on athleticism and being younger and just improving career trajectory. Yeah, Benítez looked terrible, but yeah, I'm not going to lay the juice with Maheshate, but he probably does get it done. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Benítez was able to pull it off, though, you know, with how green Maheshate is. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm just completely staying away from this one.
I hear you, man. I will probably go ahead and embrace the square and just throw my shot in a parlay or something like that for me here on this one. I'm pretty convicted that he's going to get right in this spot. You know, training at Fight Ready, taking almost an entire calendar year off to improve at 24 years old. I'm expecting him to kind of take a couple steps in the right direction. So I'll probably take the plunge at this point. You know, whether or not I take him by knockout or throw him in a parlay, like I'll have a piece of Maheshate somewhere on this card.
Yeah, he's fun to root for too.
He is. He seems like a nice kid for sure. And they got a good Mongolian crew developing over there at Fight Ready.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Second fight of the night. We got to shout out our guy Brady, DFS by the numbers. The return of Liang. She's taking on Ivana Petrović in this spot here. And man, I was oddly enough, I was one of the people that actually called the upset in Ivana's UFC debut against my girl Luana Carolina. We talked about those mangy, greasy dogs that I just can't quite let go of. Luana Dread Carolina is one of those for me where I'm like, man, people just don't appreciate. Like, she's underrated. She's scrappy. She's got that dog in her. Sure enough, she comes out here and she gets it done. But is that going to be the case for the second fight in the UFC for Ivana? Man, I think this fight comes down to less of what Ivana does and more about what Liang does, right? Like, this chick is must-see TV. Dragon Girl 19-7 and essentially is round one or bust. Man, she has 17 round one finishes. 10, or I'm sorry about that. She has 16 round one finishes. She has one round two submission on her entire record. But she got outed, man. I thought she was actually going to be live enough to get it done against JJ Aldrich. Just the athleticism, you know, we know JJ's solid, but she's definitely not an athlete. Moving up 10 pounds, I really thought that was going to be something that helped Liang, maybe would help out her gas tank. Nope, none of it mattered. And someone who can't finish anybody, JJ Aldrich pounds her out in the second round because she has nothing left to give. That's just the script, man. It's what Liang does. So she's going to come out here and try and do the same thing against Ivana, start fast. And if she doesn't, I think she just dies a slow death. You know what I mean? It's like, are you going to get finished early by gassing out, or are you going to get it finished late by trying to slow down and not gas out? Either way, I think she's kind of cooked here. Ivana, very well-rounded skill set. I like the way she mixes in her grappling, makes it a well-rounded MMA game. Her ground and pound is nasty when she gets on top of people. I think she's more athletic than somebody like JJ Aldrich is. So yeah, man, another one, unfortunately, a get right spot. The number is gross at like minus 600, but you might as well be playing the round one prop for if you're gonna, because that's kind of her money line.
Yeah. And the round one number is pretty big for Liang. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that she can like get an early finish against Petrović. I think the number is absolutely crazy. I just don't know if I want to pull the trigger and bet because like you said, she just doesn't have 15 minutes of cardio. And if you like after like 4 or 5 minutes, she's just like completely smoked. But I thought she did decent in round one against JJ. And Petrović has shown in the past that she can be grappled. She's very weak off of her back. In the title fight for Aries, I actually bet against her with that the Polish, I think her name is like Yahya Leah or whatever. But she showed in round one that she was easily controlled. She didn't have any get-ups. She was very weak off of her back. And at least you know Liang is going to attack takedowns early. And so I kind of think will win round one. And then, like you said, will eventually fall off the cliff and either lose a decision, because I know Petrović is pretty good when she gets into mount and she can be pretty physical, but if Na just like closes her guard, there's a potential that it goes over. And I was thinking about targeting the over because both of them are, I think their finishing abilities are a little overrated. But since Na is just so weak, like later in the fights, it's really hard to have any confidence in putting any money on her or betting the over. But I do lean over and probably like a late round 2 submission for Petrović. But I wouldn't be surprised if Na looks like a favorite early on.
Yeah, man, I couldn't fault anybody for taking that early round prop shot on Liang. I'm right there with you. Hell, I thought she was going to do it over JJ, you know, so I absolutely understand taking that flyer here in this spot. And like you mentioned, the grappling was a problem in her last fight. I think the physicality is going to be a big difference here, though, man. Liang, she's usually a bit of a size bully, but up here at 125, I want to see these face-offs, man, because based on the UFC numbers, Petrović is supposed to be like 3 inches taller. Now, the numbers are never right. So these two could be staring each other right in the eyes, you know, come face-off time on Friday. But if she is that much bigger, I'm not sure how much grappling success Na will have. Well, I just gotta wait and see on that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean her takedowns look decent against JJ because like a lot of girls have had trouble grappling JJ and getting her down. Like the girl whose shirt I'm wearing right now, Robertson couldn't get JJ down, but Na had 3 takedowns in round 1. So I would not be surprised if she's able to get some grappling going, but it's a very weird and volatile fight. I'm still thinking about how I'm going to target, but I think I do want to bet on this in some regard. I might just take the plunge on Na props.
Good freaking luck, man. I can't bet this woman at -600. So I can't argue it. You know what I mean? Like you go for it. I'm gonna pick her to win. Take the coward's way out here. But unless I'm looking at like round 2, round 3 finish props or something like that, I'm not gonna have anything on this one. I don't think.
Yeah.
All right. And man, you know what? Just before we move on real quick, don't worry, guys. I'm not entertaining the trolls too much. But Sadabu C in the chat here says, you're a clown, Clint. You have $4,000 on bet openly on the track record. So I've gotten, believe it or not, Pepe, I've gotten a lot of shit for this. And I'm kind of baffled at it because I couldn't have been more clear when I said that this was a one-time shits and giggles bet, the biggest bet of my life. I was doing it up as kind of a gimmick on Bet Openly, being like, hey, for every like, I'll put $1. It was supposed to be for fun. It's not part of the tracked record. Guys, I established that from the jump. Like, from day one, I was like, this isn't the record. I'm going to track a max bet because it would indeed have been a max bet as per normal, but it was a UFC 300 fun bet. And I literally donated $4,000 to gamblers who took my action, and somehow people are pissed off that's a thing. So you guys, it is what it is. Like I tracked it as a 7-unit max bet, and that's it because it was a one-time thing. It wasn't part of the actual bankroll. I saved up for it, and that was painful. So don't worry, it hit me right square in the pockets. But that's how I set it up. If I had won the bet, would any of you have complained if I only gave myself 7 units? Like, those were the terms of the deal when I started it. So I don't know. It's one of those things where like, I want to make sure and get it out there and just kind of do a shut the fuck up about it because I made it clear from the jump. Okay. Sorry, Sadabusi. If you're crying, you can go talk to your higher up contacts over at YouTube, and I'm sure they'll get you set up with a show moving forward. So you probably should work on your cardio for your next fight coming up in PFL anyway, and stop worrying about my chat. Next up, man, this fight, Pepe, I'm going to have to rely a lot on you, my friend, because this is a very newly booked fight. Guys, I didn't even realize this fight was on the card. They posted it this afternoon. We've got a short notice fill in here. James Llontop, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, I think is taking on Taco, best name in the game, Chris Padilla. And I did not look into James because I didn't know he was on the card. And obviously I haven't looked into Taco because that guy is newly added for this fight here. So Pepe, do you have any knowledge on either of these guys, or is this one new to you too?
Well, I taped the Llontop Green fight, which was originally booked. So I did look into Llontop, And I just started to look into Padilla today. He was not someone I had on my radar whatsoever, and I'm pretty like in the know with the regionals. Going through his record, there's a few unforgiving losses, in my opinion, like getting submitted by Gabe Green and Nate Andrews is probably a huge red flag for me. He's getting into the UFC off knocking out Justin James, which doesn't tell me anything, but I don't know. Do they even have odds released for this?
Let me look. I think Bet Online would be the only one that might.
Yeah.
Yes. We've got James at minus 255 plus 215 on Taco Padilla.
Yeah. You know who he kind of reminds me of is Darian Weeks. So he has that like low volume, not wrestle heavy, but he likes to take it to the ground. And I think he's like a fighter like Weeks where it's tough to look like a huge favorite against him. Like he's got a pretty high floor, I think. But I feel like he'll struggle to get any kind of UFC wins just based on like the lack of skill.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not surprised that Llontop is a big favorite. He's the prospect that they're trying to push. Sure. The UFC brings in these short notice replacement fighters all the time who just fan out, lose their 3 fights, like that Weston Wilson guy. I think Weeks went 0-3 in the UFC also. So
after getting robbed, poor bastard.
I know against Lohan or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how they scored that fight against him, man. And then Lohan turned out to be a bum. We all figured it out in the Weeks fight beforehand, but didn't cash a ticket. I was pissed about that one.
Yeah, I was in Vegas for that fight, and my buddy actually ran into Weeks after the fight, and he was super bummed out about it. And it's crazy. These judges have such a big impact on their career. Like one bad scorecard can completely alter their trajectory.
Yeah. No, it's tough times out there, man. But for those of you wondering, Chris Padilla looks like he's 28 years old, 13-6. I'm just looking at his Tapology page here. Coming off a KO win over my guy Justin James, though. So earned his stripes getting into the UFC. That seems to be kind of your method to getting to the big show, is taking out a guy like James who has 1 or 2 UFC fights on the record. Yeah, I'll have to do some research and look into him, guys. So obviously I do apologize, not prepared to really get too deep into that one. Pepe saying the favorite is rightful. So, hey, do with that what you will. We'll circle back. Maybe I can get some research done by the Friday show and talk to you guys a little bit more about that one. All right. The next real fight we want to talk to you about is Ketlen Souza taking on Marnik Man. And, okay, so I have a challenge here, Pepe. I've got a challenge. My guy, sparring with reality betting, Luke, regular here on the podcast, has asked me specifically to go ahead and try and pronounce Ketlen Souza's fight name. And I believe it's Esquintadina, right? I don't believe the INHA, there's not an extra syllable there. Esquintadina? Am I close?
That's pretty good. Any idea? That's better than what I could do. I know that.
Okay. All right. I'm close. There you go, Luke. I promised I would give it the old college try. I like this fight, man. This one's fun. So Ketlen Souza, 13-4, 28 years old. She dropped her UFC debut to Silva by knee bar, of course. We'll talk about Silva here in a little bit. But she's been off for quite some time since that fight happened, about a year-long layoff at this point. And that fight, I've got a little bit of a bone to pick on that one, Pepe. So I have not been the biggest Silva believer, and she's kind of started to, she softened me up a little bit. I'm coming around. But that fight was kind of indicative of why I'm not a believer. She was starting to fall back for what looked like a straight ankle lock or maybe transitioning to a heel hook. She was working on something with that ankle. And then Souza's knee popped. And it was one of those ones where when they show the overhead view of the camera, you could see the ligament snap in her knee. She got credit for a knee bar. That wasn't a knee bar, man. Unless that's a submission that I'm not privy to. Only a blue belt, so entirely possible. But I'm pretty sure that wasn't actually the sub that she was intending to attack. in that spot seems more like an injury situation there to me. I hope she's okay, obviously, but it was a spot where I wanted to see that fight play out. I was very interested in Souza in that spot. In fact, I think I had a bet on her in that spot, but she reminds me a lot of Jessica Andrade, man. She's short, she's a tank, she is violent. She's got 8 wins by KO, nasty knees and elbows in the clinch, big ground and pound. You do not want this girl on top of you. Vicious top game. And she's going to be bigger in this spot, which is shocking to me because Ketlen Souza is never bigger than anybody. Marnik Man, 6-2, maybe the shortest fighter on the freaking roster at this stage, man. 31 years old. She lost on Dana White's Contender Series to Bruna Brazil, and then she somehow got the call, to the UFC to go ahead and shine on Khamzat Chimaev's girl Knudsen, and she's just kind of one of these. She'll stick around for 4 or 5 fights. They're going to use her to buff up a couple of, debutante type of prospects and shit like that. She's just not athletic, man. She's short. She's stocky. She's strong. I'll give her that. She's tough. She's tougher than a $2 steak. It's hard to get her out of there. But I think some of these, higher ceiling UFC type of prospects are going to find ways to get her finished and get her out of there. But I think she'll hang around in a couple of tough spots here. I don't see any way Marnik Man wins this fight, quite frankly. I like Ketlen Souza to go ahead and win, but coming off that injury layoff and that knee situation, I got burned at UFC 300 betting on people who are coming off of knee issues, man. I'm not diving in at this minus 345 price tag. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ketlen Souza got on top of her and got like a referee TKO stoppage or something like that, but at minus 350, I'm just going to have to watch and see and see how well she's recovered from that injury, man. What are you doing with this one?
So when I think about this fight, I think about that Riley Reid meme where she's like biting the sheets and it's like, oh, fuck, you're going to make me. And I think about clicking for this one because Marnik Man, like, I think the odds are pretty off on this one.
Okay.
And you said that you don't give her like a path to victory, but I think she does have a path to victory with the takedowns and potential grappling upside. She doesn't do a ton of damage when she's on top, but from watching all of her fights, she always goes for takedowns. And Souza looks like she has decent takedown defense. She looks a little more athletic than Marnik. By the way, Marnik has a fucking great nickname, the Sawed-Off Savage. Like, that's incredible.
One.
That's incredible. Yeah. So I think it's going to be difficult for Souza to cover her money line. Especially when Marnik is going to try to take her down. Will she get her down? It's really hard to say. Souza is coming down in weight. She was fighting at 125 before, and I think she was undersized for 125, so it makes sense. But you don't want to lay juice on a big WMMA favorite who's going down in weight. You know what I mean? Coming off an injury loss like that, when the underdog has potential grappling upside. Usually when I know that I'm betting a WMMA fight where the underdog has potential grappling upside, it's kind of like just a system bet. But for some reason, I'm having a hard time coming around to putting money on Marnik Man. But I'm debating it. I don't know. It's a potential play.
Okay. Hey, fair enough, man. I don't know. I guess I'm so low on Marnik Man. You know what I mean? Like, even if Ketlen fights closely, even if she's not 100%, I still think she edges it out. Like, the bigger shots landed, like, it could be close. The judges will give her 2 rounds. Like, I just can't get there. I can't find my way to the underdog here in this spot. And God bless you if you can.
was the Knudsen fight on short notice too?
You know what?
I kind of remember that being like a late replacement fight. So I'm just looking for excuses for Marnik's terrible performance. But even if you go back and watch her old fights, she's looked pretty unimpressive, even in LFA. So yeah, I agree. She's not very skilled at all. But yeah, I just see a potential path to victory for her.
I hear you, man. Yeah, good call. Good memory. Knudsen was supposed to fight Yasmin Lucindo actually that night. And then Marnik Man is the one that ended up filling in. So good call. Very good call, man. And shout out my guy Hi. How do you say that? Hey Jive, I think. I've always read name and never said it out loud, so I apologize. Hey Jive Picks, you guys got to check this guy out. He's one of the Homa Fight dudes over here, so make sure you're checking out his stuff, especially on TikTok. He's got real good TikToks where he's doing not like shaking his ass the way I do, semi-professionally, but good interviews and updates and fight announcements and shit like that. So make sure you check him out. All right, so Pepe wants to find a way to the dog. I'm fully picking the favorite. Again, I'm just going to be a coward. I'm not parlaying up the women's MMA fights at minus 600 and minus 500, but I do think they both win. All right. Next fight up. Don'Tale Mayes takes on Caio Machado. And Pepe, they're trying to get me again, man. They're trying to make me do it again. I've got a long tormented history with Don'Tale Mayes. Since this guy made it to the UFC, I have always tried to make the argument for him. He's freaking huge, man. He's absolutely massive. And he's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of things that he does the right way. He's got power. He can wrestle. It is all right there. And he's still god awful. He still finds a way to just sell these fights down the river. And I'm sorry, guys. I gotta, the chat. He's getting banned now at this point. You guys know the rules. No racism, no sexism, no hate speech of any kind, and no spamming. Those are the only rules. You can mock me all you want. You can make fun of me. I don't give a fuck what you think. Don't spam my chat. You're gone. See ya. Go make a burner. We'll see you in 15 minutes. Anyway, so Don'Tale Mayes. I've always tried to bet on this guy. We got the Josh Parisian win in. I lost a pile against Hamdi. That ends up being a no contest. And of course, they don't refund you for no contests when that kind of shit happens. So we still just take the L on that one anyway. We got the actual knockout call on the Andrei Arlovski fight. And, yeah, sorry, Silent Rob. I was actually paying attention to my guest and breakdown, so sorry for being late with the band there. So with the Andrei Arlovski spot, though, man, I got to tell you, for picking him to win by knockout, for calling the whole thing top to bottom, I was shaking in my boots. It looked like he was going to sell yet another fight down the river. You've got this old beaten man in front of you who, if you just sit down on one or two punches, he's out of there. And it took him almost 2 rounds to finally go, oh, what if I just hit him really hard? What are you doing? So on the official record here, you've got Don'Tale Mayes, who is 1-3 in his last 4 fights with the Hamdi loss. It's been overturned to a no contest, like I said, but he did lose that fight. And then he got beaten up by Rodrigo Nascimento. The speed difference was just lights out, and he couldn't figure out how to do anything differently to change the pace of the tone of that fight. He opens up a minus 170 here in this spot, man. He's 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. He's tough. He's durable. And he's taken on a guy who's coming off Dana White's Contender Series in his first UFC fight. Made his debut against my guy, Mick Parkin. Took the L there in that spot. And I'm just not impressed with Machado, man. I'm really not. He explodes into range. He's got decent head movement, right? He rolls well. He counters pretty well. Decently fast hands for a big guy. I like the way he rips the body. I do like that. But he's got poor takedown defense. He's got really bad takedown defense. And the one time he did get taken down, in round 2 of his last fight, it took him 4 minutes to get back to his feet. He didn't do shit. He just laid there. And after opening minus 170, Don'Tale Mayes is a dog. Man, I swore that the Andrei Arlovski fight was going to be the last time I ever in my life bet on Don'Tale Mayes, just because he's cost me money time and time again. And when he's sitting here at plus 105, after people have somehow bet this Caio Machado to being the favorite, I am so tempted to take the dog stab here on Don'Tale Mayes, hold my nose, pray and cry when I lose decision on Saturday. I think Don'Tale Mayes should win, man. I really do. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Pepe, at least make me feel better and tell me you moved the line to Caio being the favorite so I can just pass. What are you doing on this, man?
No, I'm afraid to let you know that I kind of agree with everything you said.
Oh, God.
I think most people debating betting on Mays are doing some serious soul searching because he's just that guy where, like, he's value at plus money here, but you just don't want to bet on him so bad. But I think I'm going to come around to eventually getting to a Mays bet. Like, I think the opening line was more accurate with him being minus 170. We're getting Machado, who was plus 200 or plus 300. Yeah. Against Mick Parkin. And I don't think there's a huge tier difference between Parkin and Mays. I think the one predicament that you have in this situation is Dontel Mays. His wins in the UFC are Roque Martinez, Josh Parisian, and Arlovsky at this stage in his career. And then his losses are Nascimento, Sakai, and Ciro Gane. And the way Machado measures up to those fighters is he's a little bit better than the people that Mays has beat, but he's definitely worse than the people who are beating Mays. So it's kind of hard to see exactly what the market should be valuing him as, coming off as like a huge underdog, and he lost cleanly to Mick Parkin, who's not the best either. So I think Mays has potential grappling upside. I think he should probably be like around minus 160, minus 170. I think he closes as favorite. I think the line is pretty solid right now.
Man, and this is one of those gross spots. I want to throw up in my mouth just a little bit, but like
I know.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Like, I think the opening line was closer to accurate. And I think people are just so excited to fade Dontel Mays that they want to take whoever against him. But like, man, he's gonna come out here and try to I guess he could volume Mays maybe, but like Mays hits harder. Mays has an easy path to grappling success.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think Mick Parkin is a better offensive wrestler. And I think the IQ difference is there where we know Parkin will go to the grappling. And I think that's a big, big part of this. I know that he will go to the grappling. And I've questioned time and time again whether or not Dontel Mays will follow the damn game plan. Yeah. If he goes to the grappling, he wins this fight easily. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't, we're in for like a plug your nose, close, grindy type of split decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like getting plus money on that, though, with the potential grappling upside is kind of tough to pass up on. And even standing, I don't think he's in trouble. Like, I think he can land the harder shots. I think it will be sweaty, though, if it just plays out 15 minutes on the feet. And I hate how sometimes Mays will just, like, mail it in, and just kind of like, it's almost like he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he'll just let losses slip away, like the Sakai fight, too. He didn't really know what adjustments to make. I don't know. It just kind of seems like he doesn't really care that much. Like, he doesn't really dig deep to win his fights. So, but I do think this is super winnable. Like, Machado has fought like absolute garbage competition in the regional scene. And he's not even like a true Brazilian who like fought on the Brazilian regional scene. He's from Canada, like very weak regional record. He fought a lot of guys who are very unathletic. And I think Mays will be a little quicker than the people that he's fought in the past. So yeah, I'll probably hammer the Mays line at some point.
Oh God, I might have to get in with you there, man. I don't like it, not even a little bit, but I might end up there just because I have to. It's one of those disgusting ones where I must click, and I don't like it whatsoever. My guy Mushroom in the chat always giving me shit about the fireball. I know, Mushroom. I'm not a real man. I apologize. But hey, I did discover a new drink that you can make fun of me for. Have you ever had a white tea?
I've had a green tea.
Okay.
The green tea shots.
See, I haven't had a green tea shot, but I've had a
Yeah.
white tea shot, and it's about as much of a lady drink as Fireball is. So Mushroom's gonna
Yeah.
make fun of me for that one. It tastes delicious, but you'll get hammered off of 4 or 5 of them and never know you had a sip of alcohol. So
Yeah, those
it,
are the dangerous ones where you just keep putting them back, and then 10 shots later, you're like, "Oh, shit."
that's my jam right there, man.
Yeah,
Ever since the bachelor party, I can't handle the taste of alcohol these days. So
yeah, I
it's
feel
uh
you.
it's very unfortunate. All right, man. Next fight up, we're talking about Austen Thud Hubbard. He's taking on Michael Figlak, the Mad Dog himself. And I'm a fan of Austen Hubbard, man. I am, but he's one of these failed prospects for me. This card has several of the people on it that I've been like, that's my mangy dog. That's my guy that I keep wanting to get to. And Hubbard's been that guy for me, right? Like, I like his cardio. I like his overall process. I like that he can wrestle. Generally speaking, I like his cardio. He trains at elevation. So he's always got gas in the tank. He can go deep. It's a good situation, man. But I almost feel like he's regressed his last couple of fights. It's weird. He goes on the Ultimate Fighter the season where they're trying to get somebody a second shot at life, that kind of thing. And he goes to a split decision with Roosevelt Roberts. A bit of a red flag there, in my opinion. And then Kurt Hollabaugh losing to that guy via finish. Oh, bad look, in my opinion. And on top of that, he just kind of got beaten up in that fight. Like, it looked like he lost his will to fight, taking on Kurt Hollabaugh, and then tapped, ran out of gas, like things that you never see from Austen Hubbard. Now, if he comes out this week and lets me know that he had like I don't know, a torn ACL or some shit going into that fight and just never recovered, he was coming in injured, that's why the gas tank wasn't there. Okay, maybe I pump the brakes on that, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Hubbard and his current condition at this point. Now, Michael Figlak, 8-1, 27 years old, coming to us from Cage Warriors, dropped his UFC debut against Faraz Ziam. Bit of a tough spot. Really, really hard opponent to look good against Faraz Ziam. And on top of that, that was on the Perez card. So, they're giving a Perez hometown guy a good fight, kind of a win-win, I feel like, for the UFC, right? Like, either you get the hometown guy a win or you get this undefeated prospect a win. Either way, you're all set moving forward. Figlak loses his O in that spot, but very frustrating fight for him. The thing I liked about it is he never quit on himself. Man, he was attacking subs from everywhere. He was swinging big shots from everywhere. He was still trying to walk this guy down that he just could not catch and swinging for the fences. He gave himself every opportunity to win that fight that he could. He's still got a live dog barking in his gut right now. And I like that about Figlak. This is a spot where I think I'm going to go with the guy in current form. I'm not a huge fan of betting against UFC caliber talent, guys that have been battle tested at this level. You would see me on a guy like Hubbard probably 9 out of 10 times the last 2-3 years, maybe. I think I'm looking at laying the chalk, man. I kind of think that something might be a little off with Hubbard at 32 years old. He's downtrending for me here. So I think I'm going to pick the favorite here. And at minus 155, Figlak, I might actually get there with a bet. What do you think?
So at the current number, I'm kind of leaning towards more value on the dog in this spot.
Fair enough.
So Figlak, one thing I'll say is he's never fought in the US before. He's always fought in Europe. So this will be the first time coming over to the States to fight. And the reason why I think there might be a little bit of value on Hubbard is I see two things that he can exploit in this matchup, which I don't know if he'll be able to, but he should be able to, is potentially getting the wrestling going. He's a little more well-rounded. Figlak is mostly just a boxer. He doesn't really go to attack takedowns or anything like that. And getting out physical like that by Faraz Ziam is not a good look. Ziam's never had that much grappling success in any of his UFC fights. Usually he's the one getting thrown around. So I think it was shocking to a lot of people to see Figlak get exposed in that way. But like you said, it was in enemy territory. It was in France. It was his UFC debut. We see a lot of fighters super underperform in their UFC debut, and he's still young enough where he could look much improved this time around. I think he pulled out of the last fight that he was booked in. I don't know if it was because of an injury or not, but I tend to see the Cage Warriors guys get overrated a little bit in the UFC. and they're always like a little more hype than I think they should be. Like looking back, George Hardwick, Mason Jones, Justin Burlinson, all Cage Warriors guys who were heavy favorites in their UFC fights and dropped the ball. So I think Hubbard could potentially get the wrestling going. The reason they call him Thud Hubbard is because of his kicks. Apparently, he like made a super loud noise when he was kicking someone in the gym, so they started calling him Thud. I think Figlak showed that he could be weak to the legs. ZM like nearly dropped him with a leg kick in round 3, and I think if Hubbard goes aggressive with that approach, it could work. So yeah, I'm not interested in laying the juice on Figlak. The over is minus 260, which is insane. Like, I do think it goes over. I do think it goes to decision. Both of them are super tough. Both of them like can dig deep to get through a fight. So I do think it goes to distance, but there's no value on minus 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning with a little more value on Hubbard. I don't know. I might get there on a bet. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. And that's, like I said, man, that was kind of my first whiplash reaction without looking into it. So I don't fault anybody taking that dog shot here on this one. I don't want to keep burning money with this kid if he's kind of broken mentally speaking. You know what I mean? He's got the tools physically. I think he's got it. It comes down to the mind game for me.
Yeah, he did look a little regressed against Halabaugh.
Yeah, I felt like he didn't have as well. That's a bad way to say it. I don't think he put as good of a game plan together for that one, or if there was a game plan, he didn't stick to it. And then when the fight got tough, I'm so used to seeing Austen Hubbard just kind of dig deep and go, nope, I'm staying in this. And he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He didn't want to get hit. He put himself in bad spots. He made kind of panicky decisions. And that was where I was just kind of like, oh man, like that's what I'd expect to see from like a 38-year-old Austen Hubbard at the end of the road, not at 32. So yeah, man, tough scenes all around for my guy there.
I feel like he kind of broke mentally in the Pichel fight too. And that's a fight that he really should have won. I think he was a favorite for that one, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, just to get outstruck by Pichel is not like a good long-term look for you. So yeah, if Figlak is showing any kind of improvements with takedown defense or improved striking, he should be able to cruise, but it's just tough to lay juice on him when he's so unproven at this level. And first fight in the States, both guys coming off a loss, they're going to want to get it back. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hubbard looks a little bit better than he did in the Halabaugh fight. Like, Halabaugh is a savvy veteran, you know what I mean? And he's a dog, so it's hard to compare Figlak to Kurt. So yeah, it'll be an interesting fight. It's definitely intriguing.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one. I'm very interested to see. You know, one that, if we're being honest, maybe I just don't need to bet. We'll see. We'll see what happens throughout the course of the week. But I will pick the favorite, and we'll see what happens from there. Strange tangent, by the way. You mentioned Vince Pichel. Guys, I found out this past weekend, no shit, this last weekend, that I'm like one person removed from Vince Pichel. My father-in-law's best friend, shout out Mark. He doesn't listen to the show. I don't know why I'm bothering to shout him out. He apparently is friends with like Vince Pichel's family and has gone to like barbecues and shit with the guy. So like straight up knows Vince from hell, Pichel. And he's told me on multiple occasions, we're all hanging out, playing pool, throwing darts, drinking and gambling. And he's just like, yeah, man, like my cousin knows his brother's a UFC fighter, man. I'm like, yeah, sure, Mark. Sure he is. Yeah. Vince fucking Pichel. Like, he actually does know a UFC fighter. So I've been kind of brushing his stories off for the last 2 years. Turns out he knows Vince freaking Pichel. So, yeah, that was a fun discovery for me here this weekend.
Yeah, you're going to have to get a beer with them one of these days.
Yeah. I'll have to call in a favor, see if I can get the hookup. Khalib with the question here. Would you ever do a breakdown with Maddie from Home of Fight? Guys, right when I got started with Home of Fight, Maddie and I did a show. He already did a podcast with me, but you best believe we'll be hooking that up and doing that again. There's so many good personalities with fight breakdowns and experience and UFC fighters. We're going to get some really cool guests here now with the Home of Fight connection. So don't you worry. Maddie will, in fact, be back at some point, but you can catch his weekly breakdown show right here on the channel as well. Next up, we've got Rani Yahya taking on Victor Henry. Winner of this fight, Pepe, gets a new hip. that's the kind of fight we're dealing with here on this one. My boy Rani is 39 years old, the old ageless wonder Brazilian, and he's taking on Victor Henry, who is a young, spry 36. I can't talk shit. I'm 36 too. My knees hurt. Man, Rani Yahya is your classic Brazilian that likes to come forward, wing overhands, flying knees, spinning back fist, whatever it takes to get in close. And then he goes to the body lock. Then he drags you to the mat. He wants to go to his wrestling. He wants to go to his grappling. He wants to get the jiu-jitsu game going. And he just seems really undersized these days. You know, 5 years ago, there was a generational shift where people started cutting more weight, and Ronnie was undersized then. You know, his last fight against Montel Jackson, they looked like they were 2 weight classes apart. This guy is just too small these days, and you got to wonder how the durability is doing at this stage, right? He's been knocked out 3 times. I'm not saying he's dust or anything, and Montel Jackson hits hard, you know, but it's not like he's been fighting the craziest level of competition, and now he's getting up there. So wondering what he looks like coming off of a KO loss 1 year later. But Victor Henry's not the knockout guy. Victor Henry's a Tony Ferguson-esque death by 1,000 cuts type of fighter, right? Like, he's just going to put a serious pace on you and maybe break you with that pace. But at the UFC level, I'm not sure that's the case. He's more of a decisionator, I think, at the UFC level here. He does average an astounding 8.26 significant strikes per minute. Victor Henry is a madman when it comes to the pace and cardio, and he's got a 78% takedown defense so far in the UFC. So very impressive. I think he keeps the fight on the feet. I think he outvolumes Yahya in this type of a spot. You got to wonder how his groin is doing, though, after Javid Basharat mutilated this poor man, and the doctor had the gall to tell him that it wasn't a cup shot. What the hell, man? We all heard the cup crack from 20 feet away. That was a situation I feel really bad for my poor guy, Victor Henry. So I'm really rooting for him to get the win here on this one, and I think he's going to, Pepe. I think you will.
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing by Bashra and the ref or the doctor or whatever to not acknowledge that he actually kicked him in the nuts and he was actually like acting. Like, that was super cringe that Bashra doubled down on it after the fight too. It's like, dude, Henry has never been stopped in his fucking pro career, and he's fought way more dangerous strikers. Yeah, that pissed me off. But
I lost a little respect for Javid. I've been a Javid guy, and I was like, man, that's not okay.
Karma caught up with him, right? Getting his first L after that. I didn't like how he acted all cocky too. So as far as this matchup, I know Henry's only 3 years younger than Hani, but he's way less washed in my opinion. And I feel like he has the exact style to be able to just stay safe against Hani. Like, Victor Henry's a very good grappler, very sound. I think he can just take like the Ricky Simone approach and just defend takedowns and land the harder strikes. Maybe this is the time that he finally gets a finish, because he damn near almost finished Barcelos. Like, the volume that he put on that guy, I don't think Hani would have survived. So I do feel like the finish is live, potentially like a round 3 KO. I don't think he's submitting Yahya, but I could see like a ground and pound kind of finish. But Yahya is kind of a weasel in survivability. Like, he just really finds a way to not get finished, but his optics are terrible. Yeah, I think it's not a super easy fight for Victor. Just stylistically, it doesn't really make sense for Rani to be able to win this one, in my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you, man. And I kind of like our guy Glenbot in the chat saying, hot take. Everyone seems to think it's Henry inside the distance. I think it's Henry by decision. I couldn't agree more with you, man. I think it's a perfect spot where he can just kind of stick and move. Stay away from the guy. Run for your life. You know what I mean? Defend the takedown when he gets in a little close. And then Rani will fall to his back, and he'll throw his ankles up and invite him into guard, and we'll get the stand up, and it'll get drawn out kind of the way what was the boxing fight this last weekend, man, where they're clinching every 2 seconds. Yeah, the Garcia fight, man, where the ref has to step in and like physically shove them apart and make them fight again. I think that's kind of what we get in this spot, and it creeps its way up to a 15-minute decision. I like the call on Henry by decision myself.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, we got 532 live viewers, and that is a good number. Thank you, guys. Hit the like button. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. Mushroom, you're saying to read your hot take. What's your hot take? Where's the hot take? I would read it, but you didn't label anything a hot take. You said you were 55 and your nothing hurts. And my friend, none of us are legends like you are. So much respect to you, my man. But let me know what the hot take is. I'll be sure to read it off for you. Real quick, folks, let's pay a couple of bills. Obviously, this is the home of Fight. We've got the description below. If you want to join the Discord, there is a paid Discord. I am not what you get access to, but you can come hang out with me and the rest of us Fight fans over in the home of Fight Discord for free if you choose to. So go ahead and hit one of those links down there. Of course, we all know about Spectation Sports at this point. Promo code DIEHARD will get you 20% off of your Spectation Sports subscription. FAC coming up, Aries FC coming up yet again. If you're looking for some research for these younger fighters, especially the guys that are going to be on Dana White's Contender Series and such, a lot of them are coming up through these regional shows, and promo code DIEHARD will get you a discount if you want to watch some more MMA on a weekly basis. Next up, Bet Openly. As you guys know, I'm currently in the process of rebuilding my bankroll here on Bet Openly, but the way you do that is by accepting action from other bettors around the world, and because of that, you get better odds. 1% juice on absolutely everything. Look at these glorious numbers. Dallas Stars tonight, lowest spot you could get on the market, minus 133. But look at that. It's a matching plus 133 on the Vegas Golden Knights on the other side. No sportsbook in the world does that. That's because you're betting with a real person on the other side of the number here. We cut out the bookies. We all save some money. It's good stuff. And on top of that, guys, it is time. It is time for the Gauntlet 2. We ran the Gauntlet a couple of weeks ago. This is a 6-week MMA betting bankroll challenge sponsored by Bet Openly. $600 in prize money. All you got to do, sign up, have a $50 bankroll to play with for the challenge. So if you're new to Bet Openly, obviously you got to deposit $50. If you've got $50 already in there to play with, that's all it takes. You don't have to sign up. No link, no post, no nothing. Just jump in here. Every single week, I will post on Twitter, X, whatever, and you reply with your bet for the week. Now, if that bet gets accepted, if it doesn't get accepted and it pushes, it doesn't matter. At the end of the week, you post the results of that play in the same thread, and I will be tracking everybody. We had 28 entries last time, and it was an absolute blast. The winner ended up making damn near $2,000 just by like running hot for the 6 weeks that we did the bankroll challenge. Everybody's out there accepting each other's action and shit like that for this type of a thing. You do one pick per fight, per card, not per fight, one pick per card for 6 straight weeks in the UFC. Whoever has the most profit at the end of that 6-week run, first place. And we've got prizes first, second, and third. $300 to first, $200 to second, and $100 to third. So if you want to go balls out early, double up quick. If you want to try and squeeze by and then double up on the last week, all kinds of different strategies were used in this challenge. And then, of course, if your initial $50 bankroll for the challenge ever hits 0, that's it. You're cut. You're out. You're gone. That's how you lose. You have to run the entire gauntlet to be eligible for that prize pool at the end. If for some God unknown reason nobody can make it to the end of the 6 weeks, we'll start the Gauntlet 3 and we'll just roll the bonuses over and everybody can take a stab at that prize pool yet again. But guys, it was a blast. Get signed up for Bet Openly. And like I said, it's a bankroll challenge, so there's no actual buy-in or anything like that. You just need $50 on Bet Openly to come play, and it's a real good time. If you guys don't know, my guest is Pepe Silva. Make sure you give the guy a follow, one of the sharpest minds in the chat, one of the most fun people on MMA gambling Twitter. So make sure you check the guy out, and let's get back around to these fights. Next up, we've got Tim Dirty Bird Means. He takes on Uros Medic. The doctor is in. I love this fight, Pepe. I really do, man. This is one of those weird fights that was never on my radar. If you gave me full matchmaker abilities, I never would have put these two together, and I kind of love it. So Tim Means and I have had a bit of a spotty history. He's a guy that I really jumped on the whole his submission defense thing is a problem, and we've done real well fading him. And I went to the well one too many times. I tried again with Andre Fialho, and he gave that man the vet lesson, and it was impressive. Tim Means showed that he's still got it in that fight, man. I really thought that he was gonna have to land some kind of like flying knee or a big elbow or some shit like that, get the respect. And sure enough, Andre Fialho kind of dives in for a bit of a takedown in round one and catches a knee to the face. And he was never right again for the rest of the fight. Fialho was not the same guy. He ends up getting finished deep in the fight. I thought it would be the other way around. I thought the old man would kind of run out of gas and Fialho would be the one who'd be able to take advantage as the old guy slowed down. He's not known for his gas tank, his cardio, Fialho, but against an aging veteran, I thought maybe that was the right spot. You know what I mean? Didn't work out for me. And now I'm sitting here kind of stroking my chin. I bought low on Uros Medic a couple of times, and it's turned out pretty well. Now, he's coming off of a loss in his last fight, lost by neck crank against Orobai, and he welcomed this man to the UFC. That dude's a tough son of a bitch. Took him down, grinded on him, put him in trouble. And he just kind of ran out of gas, lost in a position, got tapped out. You know, it's one of those situations, man. Losing to a grappler, it never looks pretty. You kind of get your ass whooped, you get dominated, but it's not like he was hurt in that fight. You know what I mean? So he gets to kind of shake off the dust, come on back, see what he's made of. I kind of like this guy up at 170 pounds. I'll be honest with you, Pepe. I feel like 170 is better for Uros than 155 was. Granted, he's not the size bully that he was. He doesn't have quite the height and reach advantage or the strength dominance or anything like that. But I think the chin is better. I think the cardio is better. I feel like it was a good move for him. You go back to the Matthew Simmelsberger fight, and he got caught 2-3 times in round one. He got hurt bad early in that fight and just kind of punched his way back into it. He ends up finishing Matt Simmelsberger deep in the fight. The only problem for me with Uros is that it's always a bit of a meme, isn't it? Like, it's a spinning back fist. It's a flying knee. It's some crazy shit that he catches his guy with. Now, you can bank on that power, but if he doesn't get that flashy moment, does he ever really win the fight? Like, that's kind of the battle I'm having with myself right now, is that Uros is far less processed, whereas Tim Means is a processed motherfucker, where this guy's just going to walk forward, beat you up, knees and elbows, dice you in the clinch. He'll mix in the takedowns every now and again, sometimes to his detriment. At 40 years old, man, I feel like 2 years ago, this is Tim Means all freaking day. I've got questions, though, at 40 years old. Now, Uros is not really a sub guy, right? He's not much of a grappler. He likes to work with his hands. He's only got 2 submission finishes on his record, and those are actually both triangle chokes, believe it or not. I'm looking more for, like, standing guillotines. I'm looking more for Ezekiel's. You know, if you can hit a nice little Darce, then I'm looking for you against Tim Means.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of tempted to go to the well one more time with the old man, Pepe. I'll be honest with you. I'd be worried about him getting kind of chinned and hit with that one big power shot. But outside of Uros clipping him with something big, I think Tim's going to be the minute winner here. And at plus 250, it's got my attention. Talk some sense into me here. Pepe, am I missing something? What's going on with this fight?
No, I mean, I kind of agree that the underdog is the side in this spot. I think Uros is a little overrated, and historically you want to bet on him when he's the underdog and avoid him when he's juice. Mm-hmm. He's lost as a favorite at least once. I think he was a favorite against Jalen Turner. He was near pick'em with Orobai, but he came through as a dog against Semmelsberger. And I'm pretty sure he was a dog against Omar Morales. But
what a weird roller coaster of numbers, man.
I know.
You're favored over Jalen Turner, but
right.
You're a dog. You're a big dog to Semmelsberger. Like, what happened?
Yeah, it's just like a classic example of recency bias and how we can take advantage of it.
Yep.
But I do think Uros is probably going to win. And the reason why I think he's going to win is because I think the speed is going to be too much for Tim Means. He's kind of shown a lot lately that he slows down after like 5 or 6 minutes. He doesn't have the cardio that he used to have. And although it does feel kind of gross ever laying that much juice on Medic, I do think potential little prop, if you want to just have fun with it, would be to take like a round 2 submission prop on Medic. Like you said, he only has the 2 sub wins, but I could potentially see a club and sub very live. Tim he always gives his neck up when he's hurt. Like he handed his neck over to Holland on a silver platter and just told him, like, please just take it. So yeah, I think Means could potentially get some grappling going, and he is a little higher volume than Medic. Medic is definitely hittable too. So like Means could land something like he did in the Andre fight with the knee, which changed the complexion of the fight. I don't think that's out of the question. So I do think he's somewhat live, but I don't know if I'm gonna get around to it. But I do like that submission prop. I think I just saw on Bet Online it's 28-1 for the sub 2. I think I might have a sprinkle of that. We'll see what the other books open it up as. I think that's the way I'd like to play it, though.
You know that number will be a little sexier on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah.
So I'm with you there, man. I don't mind that look at all. And this is one of those spots where I don't want to be accused of tampering, but like if somebody could just DM Uros and be like, work your guillotine, buddy. Work on that high elbow. I think you're right, man. And this is it's a tough one for me because, like I said, I hate when I zigzag myself. You kind of think yourself into a hole. I thought Fialho, the youth, would carry him as Tim Means slowed down. And now here I am talking myself into Means on the other side. That you're probably right. You're probably right that as Means starts to fade, Uros probably takes over the deeper the fight goes. And I do love the sprinkle on the Uros sub, even though he's not really a sub guy, just because it's so there, man. Like if you just give somebody your neck in MMA, they will take it. So yeah, I kind of like it, man. I kind of like the call. I'm struggling with the price tag. Maybe I'll look to live bet Uros. But I like those late round props. Round 2, round 3 sounds like a party.
Yeah. What's the under at?
It looks like the under is currently sitting at 1.5. Over is -180.
Yeah. I was surprised to see that Uros had never been to decision in his whole career. I know the Semmelsberger one could have potentially gone to decision, but
looked like it was about to.
But he almost got stopped in round 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely like the under. Another like little sneaky thing that kind of stood out to me is that the head kick could potentially be there too for Medic. He was going to that a lot with Semmelsberger, and I could see Means not being able to see it coming and him catching it with like a round 2 head kick too. But just at the number, I liked a little poke on the submission, but I'm also calling a head kick KO too. So
that's what we do in this game, man. Yeah. That's what we do. You present every single option under the sun, and then you're never wrong. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I love it, man. I love it. And I think the round 2, round 3 is the way to go. In fact, more than anything, I think the violence is the way to go. I might buy up to like fight doesn't go the distance rather than playing like a total or something like that. Let me see if I can find a number here. Goes the distance. Oh, geez. No is -240 on Bet Online. I was hoping for a better price with it being at a 1.5 for the opening total on DraftKings. So maybe I try and buy like an alternate 2.5 or something like that. But I think violence is probably a good look in this spot. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And Pepe, I've got to ask. I have to ask. What the fuck is mewing? Okay. Lou in the chat mentions, I'm sorry, Glenbot mentions mewing, and I see you posting, I see you tweeting at people. What is mewing? What the hell?
You don't know what mewing is?
I have no idea.
Dude, so it's an exercise that like the red pill community came up with. Well, I don't know if they came up with it, but they popularized it. And it's just like closing your mouth and putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth to improve your jawline. So you put your teeth together. And the whole thing is in order to build up your jaw muscle so that you come off as more alpha, higher testosterone. Yeah. So that's the whole thing with mewing.
Okay. All right. Now I can at least understand what you're saying when you're tweeting it.
Yeah. It's just jokes.
I gotcha. No. I've seen those things where like I saw an ad for like soft chewables that you can like put back in your molars.
Yeah.
So they like flex and you can like work those muscles back there.
I think Rogan pumps some product that he was using to increase his jawline strength or jaw
Oh, gotta
muscle.
love it. Good times. What Tom Brady did it, right? He
Yeah.
he went from having a round face to being as chiseled as it gets in like 2 years in the NFL.
And we saw how it worked for Ryan Garcia. Like, that man's jawline is crazy.
My God. Yeah, no kidding. Seriously. All right. Okay. I'm getting educated here on the show in more than one way. Next up, we got JSP, Jonathan Pearce. Fight ready, stand up. That's my boy. Taking on David Onama. We got a little tease from my guy Pepe earlier in the podcast about David Onama wanting to talk about this one. This fight is phenomenal. This is one of those up and coming contender spots, man, where like usually these guys would be fighting over a number. You wouldn't expect to see guys like this fighting until much later in their careers. Both of them have super high ceilings. Both of them have shown great moments in the octagon. I could not be more stoked for this fight. Now, JSP is in the doghouse with me, okay? He's in trouble. I'm pissed off at him, Pepe, because I was all gung-ho, ready to go in his last fight, and he got cocky. This man was doing whatever he wanted to Anderson Brito. And then he started talking shit. And I'm like, no. Like, as soon as he does it, and like the UFC mics catch him, like actively talking shit, Khabibing Anderson Brito in the cage, Brito gets up, snatches the neck, and one of the tightest squeezes in the game puts him out immediately. I was like, fuck. Like, he was running his way to winning that decision, man, and made one slip up, one error, pissed off the wrong guy, and got caught, snapping a massive win streak. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. He hadn't lost since that weird stoppage in his UFC debut against Joe freaking Lozon all the way back in 2019. This guy has such a phenomenal grappling game. I mean, I've used the phrase relentless grappling before. This guy sets the bar. Like, if I ever talk about relentless grappling, just know there's a level above it, and it's JSP. Love this guy. The problem is I'm pissed off at him. But he's always one step ahead, man. The way he scrambles, the way he reverses, the way he finds his way on top of his opponents. Not a lot of people can keep pace with him on the mat. David Onama, 11-2, 29 years old, and just a freak athlete, man. Working out at Factory X right now. He is 3-2 in the UFC, which sounds a little odd to say because I kind of feel like he should have a better record than that based on what we're expecting from him. But he's a beast. He's durable as shit, and he's got a great cardio base. He's one of these guys. He reminds me a little bit of Yoel Romero. Like, even if he gets tired, he'll still take a couple seconds, kind of hit the reset button, catch that second wind, and then go again anyway. Like, he's not going to gas out. He's not going to tire out. He's a guy that is going to be impossible to get out of there. He's never been finished, and he only ever finishes. This man's never won a 15-minute decision. So this one's pretty easy on paper to me, that I feel like JSP by decision is kind of the standard answer here. You know, we've seen David Onama struggle with the grappling. We've seen him get taken down. He does work up back to his feet, but against a guy like JSP, like I mentioned, he'll just tie you up. He'll take your back. He'll take a single leg. He'll ankle pick you. Like, he'll do whatever it takes to drag you down to the ground. I do worry that, like in the last fight against Brito, if Onama has enough cardio to kind of turn the tables deep in the fight, he's going to be the guy that hits harder. You know, this guy's got a squeeze on him. There's a lot of ways that David Onama can pull the upset here in this spot. We've got JSP sitting at this point as a decent size favorite. And let's see here. Where'd it go? I lost it. That one's out of order for some reason. P is a -180, plus 150 on David Onama. And man, I just don't trust that price. I do not trust the -180 on JSP. I think I'd be looking to play JSP by decision and go prop instead, because I just don't see him finishing David Onama. Maybe he's the first guy to submit him, possibly, but I kind of don't see it with the way David Onama has been able to show out in his last couple of fights, now training at a place like Factory X. They have got good elevation at that camp. So like I expect his cardio to improve and get better. His takedowns are improving in his last fight. You saw him kind of stonewall Santos a couple of times. Like, Santos got in deep on some like body locks or double legs, and he just kind of plowed him over with how big and physical and strong he was. Santos had to end up going down to his back in that spot and play from guard, that kind of thing. I think we could see some of that from JSP, but obviously he'll cause some kind of a scramble or a sweep or something and find his way on top or to the back. So I'm going to say JSP by decision. But I don't like it. I'm not comfortable whatsoever. And I hate betting against David Onama. What do you like here, man?
Yeah, I think we all kind of know that JSP at some point is going to get knocked out with his lack of head movement, how
Hmm.
hittable he is. And Onama is the kind of fighter who can potentially expose that. But
Absolutely.
it's tough to put money on him seeing like the grappling holes that he's displayed in his short UFC run. Like it's easy to see JSP just being able to like audit him on the ground because like let's be honest, that Brito choke was a complete meme. He
Yeah.
looked like minus 600 in that fight. So what's his line at if he wins like a dominant 15-minute decision against Brito?
Oh man, he's minus 300 minimum in this
Yeah,
spot if
but
he
then
wins that.
the thing is when I look at Onama, I feel like he is kind of the guy you want to bet on when he's the underdog and then avoid him
Yes.
at juice. Like he comes through when you least expect it. He's very green, and obviously we've seen that JSP is going to be able to take him down, but he's good at fighting through fatigue. And I could see him forcing scrambles with his explosiveness and physicality and eventually working it back up to the feet and maybe landing a knockout shot. Like the dude's only 29. He's still early in his career, and he's shown that like he can dig deep in these dog fights.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't count him out. I think he's live, but I can also see another scenario where Pearce is just able to get a body triangle super easy and backpack him for 15 minutes. So that's why I haven't bet Onama, but I could see the intrigue in playing either guy. I'm really excited for the fight. I think I'm just going to stay away from it.
Yeah, man, that makes two of us. I'm super excited for this one, and I'm sure after talking all this backwards and forwards, if the finish happens, it's probably Onama. If it goes to decision, it's probably JSP is gonna get like a round 3 TKO or some shit. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be like the worst case outcome for everybody involved. But I do think JSP, like you mentioned, probably finds a way to backpack. Probably kind of sells those minutes a la Aljamain Sterling and wins the fight via decision. I also just think that the cardio difference, as much as I think Onama is improving in that area, I don't think he's at JSP level yet. That'd be a drastic jump from struggling a little bit to suddenly contending with JSP for 15 minutes. So yeah, I think if Onama wins, he's probably got to catch him a little on the early side. I don't see him coming out in round 2 or round 3 the way that a guy like Brito did. And I'm glad you mentioned that it was a bit of a meme because man, I don't think that happens very often. If they ran the fight back, I think JSP probably mauls him again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It sucks when you have good bets that lose like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the tough ones, man. And I am not a professional bettor. I'm not the best bettor in the world. Hell, I'm not even the best bettor on this show right now. But I always try to tell people not all losing bets are bad bets, right?
Right.
Like, give me JSP against Anderson Brito again. I will make the same bet
Oh
again,
yeah.
unless he
Easily.
gets caught a second time. It was
Yeah.
probably a good bet.
Yeah, I would if they were able to run that fight back, I would go heavy on Pearce.
Yeah, no, I would love it. I would be loving every minute of it. All right, moving on, man. We have got your your classic UFC heavyweight fight that no one gives two shits about. We've got Jhonata Diniz taking on Austen Lane, and damn, man, Austen Lane, you got to kind of feel for the guy the way his run has gone here in the UFC for the last little bit. He's got that first fight scheduled against Tafa, and then the eye poke causes that fight to go down, and then they rematch him against Tafa, and he dies in the first. Like this guy, he's had a tough run against UFC caliber heavyweights, and he is a round 1 machine. He's only seen the second round, I think, twice in his entire MMA career. He wins or loses by knockout in round 1. There's almost no other option for this man. And he's big, he's tall, he's long. When he's kind of skirting the outside of the cage, it looks like he's kind of got it all together. And then he just drops his hand and blitzes in. And it's whether he lands first or you land first. He just goes Russian roulette style, man. It does not matter. Someone's going to get caught and someone's going down. His opponent, Diniz, 32 years old, 100% knockout rate, undefeated, all in round 1. This is violence incarnate, man. This fight is going to be lucky to get past the 2-minute mark. Lots of kickboxing experience for Diniz. I was not overly impressed with him on Dana White's Contender Series. I'll be honest with you. It looked like, I mean, his opponent was like almost clowning him in the cage, like making faces at him and talking shit to him and not really bothered. And then he killed him. It was a quick 1-2, pink, pink, right down the pipe. And the dude didn't get up for 5 minutes. It was like, oh shit. Okay. So this guy knows what he's doing. Lots of kickboxing experience. So even though he's 6-0 in MMA, like he's got a whole lot more miles as far as his fight game goes before that. He's got a big right hand. He's pretty aggressive. He likes the clinch knees. And I mentioned that fast 1-2 down the pipe. I mean, this is a spot where you think the UFC probably wants the Contender Series guy to go ahead and get the win. I don't see much of a future for Austen Lane, unfortunately, but we are flipping coins at heavyweight in round 1, and whoever lands first, like I said, probably wins. I'm going to go ahead and pick Diniz. He's minus 238. Diniz round 1, Diniz KO. That's the side I got to go with just because I'm not an Austen Lane guy.
Yeah, I see it. I see the fight the exact same way. It kind of does seem like a setup spot for Diniz. Lane's been knocked out 4 times in round 1, and I was like relatively impressed with Diniz's striking on Contender Series. He definitely has a ton of power. He's only been fighting MMA since 2022, so obviously there's going to be a lot of red flags. I just don't think this is the spot where he gets exposed. Hopefully he gets an early KO, and then he's a big favorite over Dontel Mays. We can burn more money on Dontel. But yeah,
anybody but Dante.
I know, right? He would probably like edge out a split decision, and then we lose all fade equity on Diniz. But yeah, I think his kickboxing fundamentals look really solid. And yeah, Lane just has that huge durability issue. So, you can't really be too successful at heavyweight if you're chinny like that. So yeah, I don't really see him having grappling success. I see Diniz getting the finish at some point. Yeah, not much to say. The big favorite's probably going to win.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm there with you, man. And this is one of those ones where if you've got to look at maybe one of these guys finding their way into the second round, it's Diniz all day then, right? Like we've never seen that Austen Lane is really capable of going past round 1. I guess you could say the same is true for Diniz, but you look at his kickboxing experience, right? He's gone to decision a couple times in kickboxing. He's won a couple fights by decision in kickboxing, different animal in MMA, but I still feel like that's enough for me to trust him a little bit more the deeper the fight goes. So got to give him a little extra nod there for that one.
Yeah, I would be interested in the under for sure. I don't know what it's lined at. I wouldn't want to lay heavy juice on it though.
Oh, it's gross. It's gross. It's minus 280 for a 1.5.
Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous. I hate playing like super juiced under props like that. Like I'd rather just sweat it out and take a small little degenerate poke on the over and try to feel something.
That's my move. I try to pull that shit. I came this close to trusting my boy Cody Brundage with an over 1.5 against Bo. Didn't have the balls to do it. Didn't pull the trigger. And sure enough, that thing squeezed up and over that half round in round 2. So
yeah, I got to shout out my co-host Evan. He was heavy on the over in the Brundage fight and Bo Nickel round 2 prop. So he made a killing on that one.
As much as it pains me to say anything positive about Evan, I'll go ahead and give him his flowers there for a good call there on that one. Evan and I have a spotty history, man. I don't know if you know. He probably was Sadabusi from the chat earlier.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. He wouldn't troll.
Oh, good times. No, I believe I'm one of his favorite targets to troll. So I had to block the guy. Haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You know what though? Pepe, with you being on the show, I'm on a peacemaking journey these days. I'm older. I'm wiser. I just buried the hatchet with Just Win Baby, believe it or not, and went on a podcast with him and Liam. So if Evan is interested in not tormenting me and making the peace and opening that door again, I'll give him a chat. Let him know if he wants to call it all good, and I'll unblock him and we'll give him a shot and see if we can be adults here moving forward. I'll give him a chance.
I think he's a changed man. Now that he's with Fight Numbers, John Kelly whipped him into shape. So
see, and it's funny because that's kind of the one thing that kind of got me scratching my chin, that I'm like, the Evan I know, I don't think John would ever really give the time of day to. So like something had to have changed between when I knew Evan and when John got hooked up with him, because John's John's a damn good dude. So
Mm.
that kind of got my interest right there, a little perked up. So yeah. Anyway, like I said, Evan, if you're listening, maybe we give it a shot. Maybe we see if we can run this thing back and make some peace here. All right, next fight up, we got Karine Silva. She's taking on Ariane Lipski, and I'm pissed off on this one, Pepe. I'm really angry at myself on this one. So got to have due process, right? Got to do the work. Got to do the work. I looked at this one and I went, why is Karine the dog? And just immediately I was like, I should bet on Karine Silva. No. Pump the brakes. Do your homework. Did the homework. Why is Karine the dog, man? And then she's minus 155. So I missed my opportunity to get in on Karine Silva as an underdog. Very popular pick out there, which does scare me a little bit these days. But she's minus 155 over Ariane Lipski, the queen of violence. And like I mentioned, Karine Silva has kind of brought me around. Man, we live in the Dricus Duplessis era of MMA these days. You get these fighters who are not technically superior. They are not the better person in the cage, but they are a tough son of a bitch. They are stronger. They are just a little bit faster, and they've got enough technique, right? Like those fighters are succeeding these days. There's a lot of them right now that you can see on the rise. And I think Karine Silva kind of falls into that category. Now, obviously, her ground game is top notch. I love her top game. If she gets on top of you, the top pressure is just disgusting. But she almost reminds me a little bit of like a Mayra Bueno Silva, who can catch people almost anywhere, given just the slightest opportunity to do so. And then she's got power, man. Her striking is improving, and she hits hard. She has hammers hidden in those UFC gloves. In her last fight, I really thought Moroz was going to be technical enough to stay safe on top. I thought that she was going to be able to win those grappling transitions, and I thought that Silva would not be as dangerous from her back as she is on top of her opponent. Thus, Moroz probably by decision, right? She got clocked, man. That whole fight went downhill quick when Silva just chinned her with a big shot on the feet. So I think there's a lot of upside here for Karine Silva. And if she harnesses any of that, she could be a fucking problem, man. Ariane Lipski. Geez, I am stumbling all over that. Ariane Lipski, 17-8. Never been submitted. But she's got no chin. And at women's MMA, that's terrifying. Like, how do you got no chin in women's MMA? None of them hit hard enough to hurt you. She's got 4 KO losses, 79% takedown defense rating. And as much as I love Ariane Lipski, as much as the next guy does, I am still just filthy angry at her for winning over Melissa Gatto, because she did not win that fight, Pepe. I got robbed that night. That split decision went the wrong damn way, and I am still very much upset about it. But I think that Karine Silva can do a lot here, man. We've seen Lipski make some big improvements in her last couple of fights. The trajectory is going the right way. Their takedown defense is on point. She's tough to get down. She's got a good submission offense of her own when she gets there. The striking is dangerous. It's processed. She hits hard. She's a finisher. It's all good stuff. But especially just watching that last fight with Karine Silva, all it's going to take is one, man. The takedown defense, the submission defense, it all goes when you get cracked in the jaw. If you're hurt, if you're rocked, you don't make the same decisions. You don't put yourself in good spots. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I don't know if Karine like straight knocks her out, but it's entirely possible for her to do so. I think she hurts Lipski at some point, and she takes advantage of that moment and wins this fight inside the distance. Do you want to lay minus 155 when you think they have to finish to get the win? Maybe not. But at the same time, that's the prediction, man. I think that's the way this fight goes. So it's Karine Silva for me. I wish I'd pulled the trigger sooner. Haven't bet it yet. If I'm going to, I probably need to sooner than later.
Yeah. So my only official play of the week so far is Silva at plus 110.
There you go.
I think I put it in about a week ago. And the reason why I'm betting her is because I think she's going to have a lot of success early. I think she's improved quite a bit. Her hands looked way better in the Moroz fight. Like, no one drops Moroz like that. I think she's shown a lot of improvements in his striking.
Dude, and Moroz is a boxer.
Right.
Like, she wasn't, so we think of her as like more of a wrestler than anything these days. Yeah. She's really made her wrestling game her thing in MMA. She came to MMA as like a Golden Gloves champion. Yeah. She was a boxer first. And
she's not that good though.
To be fair, she's not
her
that
boxing
good.
isn't that great. But yeah, I mean, like there's levels for all of it, and
Yeah.
I just think Silva, a lot of people will give her shit because she's getting finishes and she's not showing that she has 15 minutes of cardio. Because on the regional scene 4 years ago, she gassed out and accepted bottom position. So I think people are continually expecting that she's going to have the same issues when extended. She did look like she was kind of slowing down in the Contender Series fight before she got the guillotine, but she's got great finish instinct. Like she just has such a good vision for finishing a fight. And Lipski has been finished in her last 3 losses. I kind of feel like this is a setup fight for Silva to get a club and sub in round 1. And another reason why I like her is because I think she's going to have the early success, and it could be a situation where you could just hedge off live if you're worried about Silva's cardio dynamic. And when you're getting the underdog, who's going to win the round 1 at a pretty high clip, then like it's kind of a system play. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Silva's grappling. I think Lipski has been skirting by on girls who aren't exposing her grappling. Like, yeah, I get it. Her takedown defense is a lot better, but I still have questions about how she'll fare if this does go to the ground. And like you said, like Cachoeira knocked her out like nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens here too. And they're in the apex, smaller cage, forced action. I think the under is a pretty good look.
Yeah, I don't mind that whatsoever. The way these two fight, under is definitely something that I would keep an eye out for as well. Good call, man. I am bummed I didn't jump with you plus money on the Silva side. I still think she's the side. Got to decide if I want to chalk it up at minus 155 at this point and just pick the winner because you know that's what the people want us to do. Or if I want to try and get fancy with it, I think inside the distance probably more likely than a decision still these days. And let me look at what Bet Online has to offer because I'm legit tempted just to go straight KO because that seems to be the thing with Lipski. Now I know Silva is like a grappler first, so if she clubs her, she'll probably grab a neck or something like that. Oh man, they're not even giving you a good deal. It's plus 325 on Karine Silva by knockout. Gross.
Her ground and pound is pretty good too. So I could see a situation where she gets like a crucifix or something like that and is able to get a finish on the ground. And doesn't even have to chin her on the feet. But yeah, I kind of hate when I get this much CLV. It feels like those kind of bets are always the most cursed. So yeah, I'm just I'm not expecting much, but yeah, I love Silva as a dog.
It's funny how that happens, right? Like it almost feels more like a curse than a benefit. You're supposed to beat the line, but then when you do, you're like, it just never works.
Right.
Oh, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. I might just have to take the coward's way out and play Karine Silva on the money line, but inside the distance is plus 125. When the numbers are close like this, where it's like sub is plus 200, KO is plus 300, I'm not getting a deal there. You know, if I was getting plus 6 or plus 700, that's probably the way I'd look with the number, but inside the distance is probably the way I'll go if I do anything like that. And real quick, guys, got to give a shout out to my boy Razor Sharp Picks in the chat. That's my boy right there from Pub Sports Radio, one of the best pickers in the damn game. I've been tailing this guy, and he's killing NBA right now. He's fading everybody's asses and going under in all these games and stacking dollars. Like if I'm stealing Wheezy's phrase here, cash tickets like flapjacks. Wheezy, that is hard to say, my man. Congratulations. That's a tongue twister. Anyway, I got to shout out my guy Razor anytime he pops in here. All right, guys. Co-main event time. Do me a favor. Smash the like button. Give my guy Pepe a follow. And we've got Ryan Superman Span taking on Bogdan Guskov, another one of my doppelgangers. We've got the Anthony Smith rematch, running it back, trilogy time. What a dumpster fire, man. This is a fight that a lot of people are going to shit on, Pepe. You and I spoke ever so briefly about this before the show started. A lot of people are going to talk a lot of shit about this card. So low level, so gross. We don't know anybody. This thing's going to be fun, man. There's going to be so many like finishes. People are going to get caught. It's going to be crazy. Someone's toe might get caught in the cage. I mean, like you never know. Somebody somewhere is doing something stupid this weekend. It's going to be a fun card, guys. This one's going to be plenty entertaining. And this fight, much like the Austen Lane fight, is probably going to last about 3 minutes. I don't. One of these guys is going to sleep. I mean, I really wanted to make an argument for Bogdan Guskov. In fact, I have. I'm 2-0 betting on him in the UFC. I'm 1-1 cashing tickets on those two bets because he made Volkan Oezdemir look like a D1 grappler, man, with a BJJ black belt. That was embarrassing to say the least. Gets a step down against Zach Paugo and goes out there and knocks his head off. This guy's got vicious, brutal power. He trains with a guy like Johnny Walker, so he's coming from weird angles. He's a little awkward. His timing's a little off. He's cardio shit. Like he's really reliant on winning early. If he doesn't win early, or if he gets taken down, he really gets exposed in those areas. And Ryan Spann's got one of the nastiest guillotines in the game. Dustin Poirier would be proud of this man's guillotine. It is so freaking tight. You think of this guy, I say it every single time I break down his fights, man. You think of him as like a big 205 heavy hitter, but he's got 12 wins by sub. Like he subs everybody. He hurts him on the feet and then grabs a neck. That's the way he finishes. Rarely does he ever just like go to work with his hands and actually get it done that way. Except when he fought Dominic Reyes, who's completely busted and has no chin, by the way. But he's coming off of a couple of rough losses, right? Back to back. Nikita Krylov took him out in round 1. Embarrassing submission loss in that spot. Anthony Smith, split decision lost. He gave us one of the best meme reaction faces I've ever seen. When Anthony Smith's name got called in that fight, he should have won, man. He absolutely should have got the nod for that fight. He beat the brakes off Anthony Smith in that spot, but he just doesn't ever seem to do what he needs to. I can't trust a guy like Ryan Spann. You want him to grapple, he's going to strike. You want him to go hard, he's going to try to draw the fight out. Like he just never does what he is supposed to. And on top of that, man, I think his soul is a little fragile. Like I don't think he's got the dog in him. If he's winning the fight and he can bully you and he can win early, he's going to dominate. He's a freak athlete. He probably could fight at heavyweight and not be out of place up there. He's big. He's really freaking big. But as soon as he gets any type of pushback, as soon as you don't go away, he starts to wilt. He starts to fade. I mean, Anthony Smith was like dead early in that fight and just kind of fought his way back into it because Spann shelled up when he didn't immediately get an early finish. And we've seen that from him in the past before. So I kind of want to say Guskov wins this. I don't know, man. It's really tough to call. I don't like this fight whatsoever. I think that Spann by submission is probably the easiest look on this fight just because we've seen how nasty he is with that grappling. We've seen the weakness in that area from Guskov. But again, I can't trust this guy to actually go to that game plan. And if he spends any time with Guskov on the feet, I think Spann's chinny. I think he's fragile. He doesn't like getting touched. He's got 3 round 1 knockout losses. And that's a recipe for success with a guy like Guskov because that's the fight that he's going to push. And if you don't make him grapple, he's going to punch you in the mouth. So one of these guys is going to win the fight. That's for sure. But I couldn't tell you who. For the sake of, must give a pick, I'll say Guskov. I'll say Guskov wins the fight, but I have zero confidence in that.
Yeah, I kind of have just like this gut feeling that Guskov is going to win, but I've had a hard time getting a read on him. Like a part of me thinks he's like super fraudulent, but I do have to hand him his flowers for like he can definitely crack early. I think the biggest issue with him is he doesn't have many fights that go over the 7.5 minute mark. He looks like a total fish on bottom. And if like Spann gets him down early, I don't know if he'll be able to work his way back up. But then you take a look at Spann, and it's kind of hard to get a read on him. Like he's beating Dominic Reyes, Kudalaba, Serkinov, Sam Alvey. Like these are very fragile fighters. Guskov at least has shown that he has a lot of heart. Like he'll fight through adversity. I don't know if his chin will be able to hold up because his defense is pretty shit. So saying all that, I think it's a very volatile fight. But I just don't like what I've seen from Spann from like a mentality standpoint. I don't think he's fully in it. He's missed weight a couple times. And then just some red flag performances like the Johnny Walker fight. He's just underperformed a bunch. So I kind of think that maybe they're giving Guskov some shine and giving him like a potential highlight reel here. I know he's managed by Dominance MMA. Usually they get a lot of favors. And, he's coming off a round 1 KO. They might want to push him a little bit. Span is kind of flamed out as any kind of prospect with like upside in the ranking. So I have to lean with Guskov here. I haven't decided if is that the dog barking?
Zelda has an opinion, everybody. That's the
Wow.
dog. She's letting us know.
I feel like the universe is just telling us to bet Guskov. And yeah, I have a gut feeling that he's going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah. No, I'm there with you, man. I mean, I feel like Span will not follow the game plan. So even if he does come out and go, okay, take this guy down, if he like takes him down once and fails, does he try a second takedown? Does he ever even bother going back to it? I don't know that he will. I don't know that he's got the heart to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm with you. I think there's mentally something off with Ryan Span. Getting finished the way he did and then completely going against everything that he's ever been and trying to beat Anthony Smith by decision instead of going out there and being Ryan Span. That seems like he's kind of grasping at straws to get a win here. And he ended up losing that one. So, you got to wonder where his head is at this point. He is 32 years old. He has knocked out 3 times. He's on a 2-fight skid. Out of his last 5, he's lost 3 of them, 2 to the same guy who's just a complete throwaway in the division at this point in time, unfortunately. So, he was talking, man, after he knocked out Dom, he was like, I'm going to win the 205 belt, and then I'm going to vacate so my brother Kennedy can come take it, and I'll move up to heavyweight, and I'll go get that belt. And, they had, legitimate title aspirations just, 2 years ago. Yeah. That shit's gone, man. They're not doing that anymore. So I'm with you. Let's roll Guskov. And Zelda says that is the Link Memorial Dog of the Week, guys. Lock it in. We're going to take a stab on Guskov at plus 180, the underdog here this week. Could it blow up in our faces and we could get choked out early? Yes, it could. But you know what? At that number against the guy who's chinny, where the mental case is not what I want it to be, I think you're right, Pepe. I think we roll with Guskov and hope that he can make it a 2-fight streak here in the UFC.
Yeah, Fortis is really downtrending as a gym overall. Kennedy's performance against OSP was just terrible. He hasn't made any kind of improvements. I struggle to see a lot of Fortis fighters add any wrinkles to their game. You know what I mean? I feel like they hit their ceiling and then kind of just stay there.
They seem like they hit it pretty early too.
Yeah, I know. They haven't had a good prospect in quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a long dang time, man. So I'm with you. We'll fade Fortis. Maybe that's a thing right now. And we'll go with the new hotness. My guy, Guskov. I'm gonna have to shave my head by fight time though, so I can look a little bit more like him for Saturday. All right, guys. Main event, 700 live viewers. Hit the like button for me if you would. If you're streaming on social media, do me a favor and share the show. Give my guy Pepe a follow, and let's get into this last fight of the night. I'm sad, Pepe. I'm sad because we're watching Matheus Nicolau versus Alex Perez when it should be Matheus Nicolau taking on none other than this dirty some bitch Manel Cop who can't find a way to the scale. I don't know what's going on with Cop. My futures are dead. There's no hope. He's never going to get the title at this point because he missed weight, lost his fight, and then they couldn't rebook him. I guess he's injured or something. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but I think he's hurt now.
Yeah, rib injury that ended up in surgery.
Oh, my God. Okay. So, yeah, RIP, all the Manel Cop futures that we took stabs on for this year, guys. It's done. It's over. He was 1 knockout away from getting the call to fight Pantoja. And I guarantee that was going to be Nicolau. He was going to knock out Matheus Nicolau. I'm pissed. I am upset. But that's the game we play. Anyway, we'll break down this fight for you since it's what we got in front of you. Man, tough times for Alex Perez. But I'll be honest with you, man. I gave Perez a lot of shit. I talked to no end about how this guy, I don't think he's even going to make it to the cage in his next fight. I got to see him on the scale. You shut the door behind him before I believe that fight is ever even happening. He's going to look bad. You got to wonder where his head's at. He's got to have declined in his skill set. I said a lot of stuff. He looked really good in his last fight, considering he was facing an up-and-coming prospect with just relentless grappling and cardio in Muhammad Mokaev. This guy defended almost every single takedown. He was getting the better of a lot of those striking exchanges. And on top of that, he made weight and his cardio still checked out. In the third round of the Mokaev fight, Muhammad Mokaev was diving on ankles, doing everything he could to close the distance because he didn't want to stand with Alex Perez deep in round 3. And Perez was coming on hard. So cardio checked out, durability checked out, submission defense checked out, takedown defense checked out. Like, that was an all-timer performance for a guy coming off of like a 4 or 5 year layoff at that point, missing weight so many times. Now, I will say, I worry a little bit about the weight this time around because it's such a quick turnaround. He just fought 3 months ago. So he had all that time to like get his conditioning correct and make sure his body was on point and hit the scales correct. Now with a 3-month turnaround, can you do it again? Like, did you make the lifestyle choices to make this weight class? Or did he party a little too much after getting back in the cage and proving to himself he can still fight at the UFC level, and he's going to just whiff on the scales again on Saturday? I don't know. So I'm still very skeptical about whether or not he makes weight on Saturday. But I think he's being a little overlooked in this spot because he was supposed to lose that fight and he did. So a lot of people aren't going to give him credit for what he actually did do in that fight. And in my opinion, that was a lot. You know, Mateusz Nicolau is a guy that I kind of like, but I kind of also think he's mid everywhere. Like, when he got to the UFC, I thought he lost his UFC debut against Minel Kopp. He got the split decision win in that spot, which is what made that, this fight interesting in the first place. Vengeance for Minel Kopp. But then he goes on to kind of, go to decision with Elliot and Dvorak in not spectacular performances. You know what I mean? And he catches Matt Schnell, the chinniest guy in the division. We called that knockout finish. We knew that one was coming a mile away. And then my boy, Brandon Royval, absolutely handles him. So, like, where is Mateusz Nicolau actually, right? Like, he's a good striker. He's a decent wrestler. He's a black belt, I think, if I recall correctly. So he's a good grappler. Like, he's got all the boxes checked on being a good enough fighter. But is he elite? Is he a title challenger? I'm not so sure, man. I don't know if he's quite that level. I think Alex Perez might be live in this spot, if I'm being honest with you. If he comes out here with a wrestling offense game plan rather than a wrestling defense game plan, because that is what he did before the long layoff, is he actually would come down and push the grappling on people. If he comes out here and tries to take Nicolau down, I think he's maybe a little bit more live in this spot. Now, we've got to talk about the Nicolau, 93% takedown defense rating. So that's impressive as shit, right? Like, Tim Elliott went 1 for 10 on the guy. So it's not going to be easy to get this guy down to the mat. So I don't know if that path works out for him well or not either. I'm just saying, I don't know that this fight is going to be the blowout that a lot of people might think it is. I don't know that Nicolau hits hard enough to KO a guy like Perez. He might be able to submit him, and that's always been kind of the Achilles heel for Alex Perez. Maybe he leaves his neck out on a takedown and gets snatched or something like that. But I think the line might be a little bit wide here, man. What do you think?
Yeah. I know Perez was a huge underdog to Mokaev, and he kind of outperformed his line. Like, I kind of feel bad for anyone who took the shot on Perez against Mokaev because it was a phenomenal bet. But I thought he looked a little slowed down. And my biggest issue with Perez's performance against Mokaev is the lack of volume and the lack of doing any kind of damage in the fight. Like, it kind of turned into like a really soft wrestling match where it was just like a lot of counter grappling, but he wasn't really making Mokaev pay for it, not throwing knees, not elbowing. He didn't really do too much to win the fight. Like, he let a super winnable fight just pass through his hands. And I hate betting on fighters who are very passive like that. Like, they don't dig deep and make it super clear that they want to win the fight. Like, I don't know. It was just a very passive performance. I didn't like that. And he's only fought one time in the past few years. Like you were talking about, he's had weight cutting issues in the past. That being said, how they match up stylistically, I think it can play out very close. And I'm kind of tempted on, like, the way I see it playing out is like a close decision. I think Nicolau's biggest fault in his game is that he's kind of a chinny flyweight, and you can't be chinny at flyweight because you know what I mean. So
Perez is not a big puncher, though, is the problem.
Yeah, I know. And Nicolau's the more technical guy, but he always fights like the same way. He's just gonna be like skirting around the outside of the octagon, getting his reads. So I feel like round 1 is gonna pass very like easily. Not much is gonna be done. I could see kind of like a staring contest, to be honest. So in that regard, Perez is probably the side, just because of how close I think it's gonna play out early. But ultimately, I see Nicolau eventually taking over, getting a takedown at some point, just landing the cleaner strikes. I think he's more technical. I think he has the better boxing. So, yeah, my prediction would be Nicolau by decision, but I wouldn't want to lay the juice on a fight that I think could play out very close and on a guy who's like a little chinny. So, yeah, I think I lean over. The over 4.5 is plus money. That could potentially be a look. I know Nicolau by submission is probably going to be a popular play because Perez has been submitted multiple times, but Nicolau doesn't really proactively grapple that much. And, you know, to be fair, Perez is getting submitted by the best of the division. So I don't know if I would want to take a stab on that.
I might go a la Max Holloway here and sprinkle the Perez KO 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. I'm just hoping this fight happens because,
that's
you
true.
know, we weren't expecting Perez to fight against Mikhaev. I wouldn't be shocked if the weight issues resurfaced like you were talking about.
I think that could potentially be an issue. Absolutely could be. Definitely agree with you.
The biggest fumble of the year has been Manel Kape.
Oh,
like I have so many bets on his future as well. Like I was looking forward to this card so much because I knew we both had Manel Kape futures, and then he pulls out. Like the guy just can't stop fumbling. Like they're just trying to like give him a title path on a silver platter, and he just refuses to take it. It's so
they're legit like gifting it to him. It's like, here's the path, take it.
Yeah. I think I bet Kape when they were first booked against Nicolau. I think he matches up really well. I thought the first performance was kind of an outlier, although Kape lets fights slip away.
He does.
I think he knows what he needs to do now. But I love that spot for Kape, and I think he matches up with Pantoja over 5 really well too.
I agree.
And now that Pantoja is getting like a little more, he's been through a ton of wars now. Like his chin is not going to be able to hold up forever with the amount of damage he takes and his lack of striking defense. I can see Kape being the first guy to shut his lights off.
Are we Team Ursig, Pepe? Are you joining me?
I think
are we Team Ursig?
I think you have to be. I need to take a closer look at that, but that line seems off, like plus 200.
I want to complete the Cinderella story, man. I want real life Rocky to come in here and take the title in Brazil.
Yeah,
knock the champ out. Let's go.
he's in his prime, so like it would be the biggest Cinderella story, and I would definitely take Kape against Ursig. I think that would be a really intriguing fight, but Kape is just doing everything in his power to fumble the bag.
It's so frustrating.
So frustrating.
And he's 30 years old. We've got time. He'll be back around. The future bets probably won't have as good a number for 2025, though, when he comes back healthy and half the division is out, unfortunately. So is what it is. But that is UFC Vegas 91, everybody. Pepe, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really fun. We've talked on Twitter a bunch, but, you know, I never had the chance to actually, like, talk to each other about fights. So I had a good time. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And what I always like to do is give my guests a chance to kind of shout everything out, man. If you've got something to plug, if people can support you or, you know, where they can find your content moving forward, the floor is yours, man. Let people know where they can go to find your stuff.
Yeah, it was an honor, Clint. Thanks for letting me come on the podcast. Had a great time breaking this card down. Like I said before, there's not a ton of name value, but a lot of these fights are super exciting. So I'm just happy UFC is back. I hate the off weeks. Love these opportunities to make money. People can follow me on Twitter at Pepe_Sylvia716. Follow me on Fight Numbers. That's where I'm doing all my content. Check out the site. There's a ton of cool tools. I feel blessed to be able to work with Evan, Ozzy, and John Kelly. They're all super cool, very sharp guys. Love the community that we're building over there. So check us out at Fight Numbers. John's got a lot of cool tools on the site. And yeah, hope to break down another card with you. Thanks for having me on, Clint.
Yeah, man, we'll do it again for sure.
Yeah.
We'll do it again. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat, guys. But if you have a link or a code or something at Fight Numbers, use his. I'm not going to steal my guest's thunder. But I told you guys a little bit about Fight Numbers. John came on the show a couple weeks ago, and I've actually turned a profit in DFS, which I'm fishing a barrel. I lose every single week, and I'm breaking even if I'm lucky. I actually had like a decent winner a couple of weeks back, thanks to using some of the tools over at Fight Numbers. So I did get a code. If you guys sign up, you'll get a discount, I think, on your sign up there for Fight Numbers if you use that. But like I said, find Pepe, use his code. That's actually their site. They're building something awesome over there. So go check it out. You can get a lot of awesome content, especially for the DFS side of things, which is something that I'm just straight up not good at. So go to the people who know.
Yeah, no, for everyone who's watching right now, you use Clint's promo code. I don't actually have an official one, and Clint is an affiliate of the website, so
okay.
use his code. Yes.
All right. Well, guys, that'll do it for tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. UFC back in full swing. Don't forget, get signed up on Bet Openly if you haven't already. Like I said, $50 bankroll challenge. All you got to do is have $50 in your account to go ahead and play in this thing. I'll post the rules on Twitter again. If you're on Instagram, if you're on YouTube, it's a Twitter only thing. That's the only way I can keep track of everybody's picks. So I do apologize, but that's where you got to go if you want to take part in this thing. $600 in prizes. We're giving away $600. You could parlay your 50 into 600 and have 6 weeks of fun between now and then. It's a fun contest. Come check it out. We'll be back for the Total Takedown on Thursday. Of course, the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show on Friday, as always. And we're back in full swing. We got a shit ton of MMA coming up. Some really fun fights. UFC 301 right around the corner. It's good times, Pepe. Thank you again for joining us here on the show, man. And everybody get out of here. Have a great fucking week. Let's roll.
All right, Clint, let's get it.